The night was silent except for Mariam's quiet sobs. She stood in the hallway, clutching the marriage contract her uncle had slammed on the table like a weapon. "Sign it, or watch your father rot in that hospital bed." Mariam's hands shook. Her father, the only person who ever loved her, was fighting for his life. The medical bills had buried the family alive, and this was the price. "Who is he?" she whispered. Her uncle smirked. "Nobody. A poor widower, raises his daughter alone, barely survives." He leaned in close. "You're not marrying up, Mariam. You're paying a debt." She looked at her father's photo on the wall. Strong, proud, now broken, she signed. The next morning, a taxi dropped her in front of a small, weathered house on the edge of town. Cracked walls, a rusty gate, laundry hanging outside. "This is my life now." Before she could knock, the door creaked open. A little girl, no older than 5, stared up at her with wide, honey-brown eyes. "Are you my mama now?" the child whispered. Mariam's throat tightened. She couldn't speak. Then footsteps, slow, calm, confident. A man appeared at the door, simple gray shirt, quiet eyes, no smile, no desperation, just stillness. "I'm John," he said softly. "I'm sorry you were brought here like this." Mariam straightened. "Don't apologize. Just stay out of my way." He nodded once. No argument. Something about that scared her more than anger would have. Mariam expected chaos. She got silence. John woke before sunrise every day, made breakfast, braided his daughter Sophia's hair, left a covered plate for Mariam without being asked. No demands, no complaints, no cruelty. It infuriated her. "Why are you so calm?" she snapped one morning. He looked up. "Because Sophia is watching." Mariam glanced at the little girl, who was watching her father like he was the whole world. Something cracked inside Mariam's chest, but she refused to feel it. Then strange things started happening. A black SUV with tinted windows parked outside at night. Gone by morning. A man in an expensive suit knocked and handed John a sealed envelope. John's jaw tightened when he saw Mariam watching. "Business," he said quickly. What business does a poor man have with bodyguards? One afternoon, Sophia pulled Mariam into John's study to show her a drawing. Mariam's eyes swept the room and froze. On the desk, a document, a name, Giovanni Gotti Holdings, $4.7 billion in assets. Her blood ran cold. Gotti, she'd heard that name before, whispered in dark rooms, spoken with fear. Before she could process it, John's hand reached past her and closed the folder. When she looked up, his eyes were different. Not the quiet widower, not the humble father. Something ancient, something dangerous. "Mariam," he said, low and steady. "Not yet." Her heart hammered. "Not yet? What does that mean?" That night, Mariam searched his name. The results destroyed everything she thought she knew. John Gotti, reclusive billionaire, former head of the most powerful underground empire in the country, retired, untouchable. Her uncle's face flashed in her mind, his smirk, his confidence. He knew. She stormed downstairs. John was sitting in the dark, a glass of water in his hand, like he'd been waiting. "You knew I'd find out," she said, voice shaking. "Yes." "Then why? Why the broken house? Why the act? Why me?" John set down the glass slowly. "Because I needed to know." "Know what?" He looked at her, really looked. "If you'd stay for me, not the money, not the power." His voice dropped. "My first wife left when I lost everything once. I rebuilt it all, but I never rebuilt the part of me that trusted people." Mariam's anger cracked. "So this was a test?" she breathed. "It was survival," he said quietly. "For both of us." Silence stretched between them. Then Sophia patted in, half asleep, and wrapped her tiny arms around Mariam's waist. "Don't be sad, Mama," she murmured. Mariam broke. Tears spilled down her face, and for the first time, John Gotti, the most feared man in the country, looked afraid. Afraid she'd leave. By morning, everything had changed. 3 black SUVs were parked outside. Men in suits lined the gate. The modest house felt different, like a disguise finally removed. John stood at the door in a sharp, dark coat, no longer hiding. "I'll have you taken back to your family," he said. "Your father's bills are paid. You're free." Mariam stared at him. "And Sophia? She'll be fine." "That's not what I asked." John turned slowly. Mariam stepped forward. "I'm not leaving because of money. I'm not staying because of it either." She looked him dead in the eyes. "But nobody has ever left a warm plate for me without being asked." John's composure finally broke. Just slightly. Just enough. Sophia burst between them and grabbed both their hands. "We're a family," she declared, like it was the simplest fact in the world. And maybe it was. 3 days after Mariam chose to stay, the peace shattered. She was braiding Sophia's hair when the gate burst open. 4 men in black stormed in. Behind them, a woman. Tall, cold, dripping in diamonds. Elena Voss, John's former business partner. Mariam had read the name in the articles. What the articles didn't capture was the hatred in Elena's eyes when she looked at her. "So this is the little wife," Elena said, circling Mariam slowly like a predator. "How sweet, how temporary." John appeared at the door. His entire energy shifted. "Elena, you were not invited." "Since when do I need an invitation?" She smiled dangerously. "I came to deliver a message." She dropped a sealed envelope on the floor. "The consortium wants their answer, John. You've been hiding in this little dollhouse long enough. Come back, or they come for everything you love." John's jaw tightened. "Get out." Elena's eyes slid to Mariam, then to Sophia. "Cute family," she whispered. "Shame about what happens to cute families." She left. The gate clanged behind her. Silence. Mariam turned to John slowly. "Who is the consortium?" John said nothing for a long moment. Sophia was still holding her braid ribbon, oblivious. "John," Mariam's voice was steel. "Who are they?" He looked at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw fear in his eyes. "The people I built my empire with," he said quietly. "The people I thought I left behind." Mariam felt the ground shift beneath her feet. She hadn't just married a secret billionaire. She'd married a target. That night, John sat Mariam down at the kitchen table. No suits, no bodyguards, just 2 people and the truth. 15 years ago, he began, I was nobody, grew up with nothing. I was recruited by a group called the Consortium. They funded businesses, moved money, controlled governments from the shadows. He paused. I was their best earner. Mariam stared. You were in the mafia. I was the mafia, he corrected quietly. The words hung in the air like smoke. Then Sophia's mother, she found out what I was. His voice cracked almost invisibly. She didn't run because I was poor, Mariam. She ran because she was terrified. He looked down. I let everyone believe it was about money because the truth was worse. Mariam's chest ached. I tried to leave the consortium cleanly. I gave them back everything, every asset, every operation. I walked away with nothing on purpose, built back slowly, quietly, under a different structure they couldn't touch. He looked up. That's what they want. The new empire, worth more than everything I gave up. And if you don't give it to them? His silence was the answer. Mariam stood up slowly, walked to the window. Outside, Sophia was chasing fireflies in the yard, laughing. "She doesn't know any of this," Mariam said softly. "No. She just knows her father makes her breakfast and braids her hair." "Yes," Mariam turned around. "Then we protect that." Her voice was quiet but absolute. "Whatever it takes, we protect that little girl's world." John looked at her like she'd just handed him something he'd given up on. Hope. 2 weeks later, the unthinkable happened. Mariam's uncle showed up at the gate. She hadn't spoken to him since the wedding. Seeing his face made her stomach turn. But something in his expression stopped her from sending him away. He looked terrified. "They contacted me," he blurted the moment she opened the gate. "The consortium. They've known about you and John from the beginning, Mariam. The marriage, it wasn't my idea." She froze. "What?" "They approached me. Said John had been watching your family for months, that he chose you." Her uncle's voice broke. "They threatened your father's life if I didn't cooperate. I didn't have a choice." The world tilted. John chose her. She went cold, then hot, then cold again. She marched inside, found John in his study on a call. He ended it the moment he saw her face. "You chose me," she said. It wasn't a question. The pause, before he answered, told her everything. "Yes," he said. "Before my father got sick?" "Yes." Mariam laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "So the debt? The contract? My uncle?" "I needed it to look natural. The consortium watches everyone close to me. If they knew I wanted you, they'd have used you against me from day one." His voice was urgent. "I was trying to protect you." "You manipulated me." Her voice shook. "You let me think I had no choice. You let me sign that contract thinking I was saving my father when you had already—" She stopped. Her hands were trembling. "Did you pay my father's debt before or after I signed?" Silence. "John." "Before," he whispered. Mariam walked out of the room, and this time John didn't follow, because he knew he had no defense. Mariam didn't leave. She wanted to. Every part of her pride screamed to walk out that gate and never look back. But Sophia had climbed into her bed at midnight, whimpering from a nightmare, and Mariam had held her until dawn. "How do you leave a child who calls you Mama?" She stayed, but the warmth was gone. She moved through the house like a ghost. John gave her space, but his eyes followed her everywhere, heavy with guilt he didn't know how to speak. Then the consortium made their move. Sophia didn't come home from school. Mariam got the call first. She stood in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, the voice on the other end calm and businesslike. "Tell Gotti he has 24 hours. The girl is comfortable for now." The phone dropped from her hand. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She walked straight to John's study and opened the door. He was already standing. Already knew. One of his men was speaking rapidly in his earpiece. John's face was a mask, but his hands were shaking. For a man who controlled billions, who had faced down enemies and governments, seeing his hands shake broke something in Mariam. "Get her back," she said. "Mariam, I don't care what you did. I don't care about the lies. I don't care about any of it." Her voice cracked for the first time. "She asked me if I was her mama, and I said nothing. I need to be able to look her in the eye and say yes." Tears spilled down her face. "So get her back." John looked at his wife, really looked. Then something in him ignited. He picked up his phone. His voice dropped to something Mariam had never heard before, something that didn't belong in quiet houses or breakfast tables, something that belonged to the man the consortium feared. "Find them," he said, "all of them, tonight." By 3 a.m., it was over. Sophia was home, asleep in her bed, clutching Mariam's hand even in her sleep. Mariam hadn't moved in hours. John stood in the doorway watching them both. His men had moved with terrifying precision. The consortium's operatives, 8 of them, were in custody before midnight. Elena Voss had been found attempting to board a private flight. She wouldn't be boarding anything for a very long time. It was finished. John walked quietly to Sophia's bedside and knelt down. He pressed his lips to his daughter's forehead so gently it made Mariam's chest ache. Then he looked up at Mariam. "I owe you a truth," he said softly. She waited. "I watched your family for a long time because I was looking for a way out of the consortium. I needed someone they couldn't predict, someone they hadn't already poisoned." He paused. "But the morning I saw you at the market, arguing with a vendor over overpriced medicine for your father, I stopped thinking strategically." His voice dropped. "I just wanted to know you." Mariam said nothing. "Everything after that became about protecting you while getting you close. I handled it wrong. I took your choice away." He looked down. "I'm sorry, Mariam. Not as a strategy. Just, I'm sorry." The room was silent except for Sophia's soft breathing. Mariam looked at this man, dangerous, powerful, broken, devoted, kneeling on the floor beside his daughter like the whole empire meant nothing. "You left me a covered plate every morning," she finally said, "even when I was cold to you." "You were exhausted," he said simply. "You needed to eat." She exhaled slowly. "You're infuriating." "I know, and I'm not forgiving you tonight." "I know that too." She looked back at Sophia. "But I'm not leaving." John closed his eyes briefly, like a man who'd been holding his breath for months, finally breathing. Sophia stirred, murmured something, and tightened her grip on Mariam's hand. Outside, dawn was beginning to break. The empire could wait. The enemies were gone. And in a small room that smelled like lavender and safety, a broken man, a stubborn woman, and a little girl with honey-brown eyes had become, quietly and impossibly, a family. He could buy anything in the world, but the one thing that saved him was a woman who stayed not because she had to, but because a child needed a mother and a man needed the truth. If this story wrecked you in the best way,